Okay, one of my local stores, Wizard's Keep, recently moved to a new location after repeatedly having stolen vehicles driven into it in order to rob it. The new location is more secure and much bigger, so I arranged a game via Discord and in we go. Death Korps of Krieg versus Catachan Jungle Fighters. Now, there was the ponder of taking inspiration from Brazil, where the poor sap at the start is arrested and taken away because someone was chasing a fly in the office as the arrest warrants were being printed, and when it fell in the printer, it caused a terrible mistake to occur. A single letter changes from T to B, unleashing the totalitarian state meat grinder after an innocent man. So maybe some pranny in the administratum does the same thing when conveying the planet the Death Korps were being dispatched to attack. The typo sends them to a different location and they just doggedly go in blasting, attacking Tradimento when they should be hitting the actual enemy on Tradimenta. But it's 40k, and while Brazil is pretty dark, we need some grimdark and some intrigue. So a vile Tzeentchian cult has successfully hacked into Imperial comms and is now using false data to send conflicting orders and have the two Imperial forces on a collision course. The Death Korps are coming in under a command squad, with the finial of Nemrodesh relic to stop a target using an ability to ignore wound loss. There's a medic, plasma and astropath with Gaze of the Emperor, and after his exemplary performance in my last game, Nook Degog, my warlord has Grand Strategist to recover command points on a 5-up. A squad of Krieg with Medipack, Plasma, Multi-Melter and Marksman, and another squad of the same. A squad of elite Catachan with hotshot lasguns, hotshot volleyguns, plasma and hotshot sniper rifle, and the Barbican's key relic. An engine seer to offer a vehicle a 5-up invuln save and also field repairs to recover lost wounds. A Primaris Psyker with Night Shroud and Psychic Barrier, a Death Korps Marshal with Power Sword and Plasma Pistol, 4 Bullgrin with a mix of Slab and Brute Shields, all with Mauls, led by a Bonehead. A Commissar with the Warlord trait of superior tactical training, so he can yell mechanized orders at 3 armored sentinels with plasma and chainsaws. One of them has a hunter-killer missile. And finally, a Lehman Russ tank commander with Vanquisher battle cannon, a las cannon and 2 heavy bolters, armored tracks for +1 save against damage 1 attacks, Dozer Blade to ignore move modifiers, a hunter-killer missile, and the tank ace ability of Knight of Piety for a 5-up invulnerable save and ignore wound loss on a 5-up roll. This fellow will be leading 2 more Lehman Russ tanks into the fray, with Executioner Plasma Cannon, Las Cannon, and another pair of heavy bolters. The Catachan are bringing in a Basilisk with Earthshaker Cannon, and a trio of mortar teams to pummel the Krieg with lots of indirect fire. A couple of Lehman Russ tanks, a command squad with an Ogrin bodyguard, 3 squads of Rambos and Iron Hand Strachan will be inspiring them. A squad of Catachan, also with the Barbican's Key, a pair of Scout Sentinels, a tank commander, and they will be led by the Lord Solar himself. Which, let us compare our Lord Solars for a moment. The regimental doctrine, well, we're both going with Born Soldier.
Well, duh.
Okay, on to secondaries. The Krieg are going with Bring It Down for victory points for taking out vehicles. The Scout Sentinels can get me 2, the tanks 6, and the Basilisk another 2 for a possible 10 points. Inflexible Command, the Guard go to for a guaranteed 15 points, and the old and ever faithful Raise the Banners. The Catachan are going with First Strike, Domination, and Engage on all fronts. The mission is Outriders, which has a secondary objective of points for controlling the objectives in No Man's Land. But neither of us were tempted by that, so we are sticking with our choices. Okay, on go the objective markers, on goes the terrain. We roll for deployment, I go first, and just pick the corner nearest to my models because I'm a lazy bastard. Centre of the battlefield is a 9-inch bubble, and we each deploy in the corners. First up, in go the Bullgrin, with an eye on making for that objective on the left and maybe getting into the building so they can sit on it in cover. Anything coming down that left flank, they can move to intercept and beat on it with their mauls. The Scout Sentinels drop into cover. Looks like they are going to do the same thing on the other end of the board. My Catachan in the very back to sit and patiently wait for an opening to leap into the enemy backfield and do their thing, and also to create a bit of a bubble to stop the same thing being done to me. Heavy weapons mortar crews in obscuring in the very back. Armoured sentinels in obscuring on the right flank, getting ready to dash around the building and make a run on that objective in the back. Infantry squad with Voxcaster in the middle. I add a squad on the objective in obscuring. The Catachan Jungle, that's tough to say, with hotshot lasguns but no plasma, also poised in the back. I guess there's a run on Barbican's keys, and every guardsman got one for Christmas because they have the same thing as mine do. Leman Russ tanks in the front ready to rumble forward, or just stay put and blast at advancing troops. Catachan Command Squad with Bodyguard in the front corner of their deployment zone. Engine Seer with the tanks to do his Omnissiah thing. Lord Solar gallops in over by the Catachan. Tank Commander over by the Bullgrin on the starting line, revving up to move into the firing alley and cover the Bullgrin as they make for the building. Iron Hand Strachan will be proxied by Sergeant Ripper Jackson, which I hadn't seen before, and it's a rather awesome limited edition model that my opponent snagged when visiting a relative in Berlin. My Commissar takes a spot by the Armoured Sentinels, gargles, and works on his vocals as he runs through his mechanised orders in his head and rereads the post-it note on his pistol that says, "Stay in cover this time, you idiot," because of the last time when a champion of Khorne on a Juggernaut freight trained him. Catachan Tank Commander in the backfield, Primaris Psyker over by the tanks, a pair of Leman Russ tanks ready to make a run for my Bullgrin's objective, another squad of Krieg over by the Armoured Sentinels in obscuring and ready to move into the building itself and open up, providing fire until such time as I need them to emerge and actually do something important. Basilisk in the absolute furthest corner to rain down hell from afar, and Command Squad in the heart of the force to throw out orders and advance depending on how things start to shake out once battle begins. Infantry behind the tanks, merrily ensconced on the objective and sharpening their Rambo knives. Man, that takes me back. As a kid, the authorities were all riled up, but us kids had Rambo knives. Now the authorities are all riled up that the kids have got zombie knives. Lovely to see history repeating with just a different term. Okay, roll to see who goes first. I get it. So let's overcharge those las cells, rev those engines, pop smoke, and...
Happening! We'll fix bayonet! Fix!
Omnissiah's Blessing on the left Leman Russ. The tank commander orders himself to go full throttle. The others are out of the 6-inch bubble, but I want them staying put for now anyways. Gunners kill on sight for the Armoured Sentinels from the Commissar. The Death Korps Marshal tells the Bullgrin to move. The Command Squad tells everyone else to take aim. Movement. The Armoured Sentinels stomp forward, which reminds us that the Scout Sentinels need to take their freebie move upon deployment. And they sprint across the battlefield and jump on the objective as my Bullgrin move and get a few boots on the objective and hoist their shields to repel the imminent counterfire as they also raise a banner. The tank commander rumbles forward, comes to a stop and levels his Vanquisher cannon across the battlefield, along with the humming las cannon and a pair of cocked heavy bolters. Basically like this, which is pretty much the last thing you want to see from your window. Well, in fact, it probably was the last thing these dudes saw from this particular window. The Leman Russ with the Blessing nudges forward a little, and the Engine Seer steps between the two tanks, breaking out the spanners and duct tape to repair the first tank to take damage this turn. The Command Squad edge forward in the shadow of the tank and also raise a banner. A squad of Krieg take up position in the central building, and the other squad move forward to do the same in that ruin on the right. And the Commissar advances, jogging after the Sentinels and taking cover. Psychic. The Primaris tries to put Psychic Barrier on the Bullgrin. Fails. He tries Night Shroud. Fails. The Astropath tries to do some divination and gets me another command point, putting me on 4. Started on 2, gained 1 at the start of the turn, and divined another. The Armoured Sentinels, they fire the Hunter-Killer missile at the Basilisk, and miss. They supercharge their plasma cannon, 5 shots at the Scout, 3 hits, 3 ups to wound, all hit, AP-3 that ignores their armour, takes a Sentinel down to 1 wound. Tough little bastards. I thought that a barrage would have popped one for sure. Squad on the right. Sniper Rifle tries to pick off Iron Hand. Nope, just a normal hit on the squad looking out for him. Plasma hits the damaged Scout Sentinel, finishing it off, but it doesn't explode. Melter is out of range. Emperor's Flashlights, 1 auto wound, 1 normal hit, 4 up to wound, nothing. Tank Commander aims the Plasma Executioner on the last Sentinel. 5 shots, 4 ups to hit, 2 wounding hits. The last Scout is down to 1 wound. God damn it, why won't you die? Las Cannon, auto wound, and it explodes. But with no one around, it's just a fun fireworks display. The other squad of Krieg. The Sniper doesn't get a 6, so it's just a normal shot. Fails to wound, the others go for the squad on the objective. 1 auto wound, 2 wounding hits, 1 save, a casualty. The plasma misses. The Blessed Lehman Russ supercharges its plasma and fires on the Catachan tanks. D3 plus 6 shots, and I get an 8. 4 up to hit, 2 auto wounds, and then, like a chump, I ask what their toughness is. It's the exact same vehicle that I'm looking at. It's right in front of me. It's in black and white on the page that I'm currently looking at. It's a Lehman Russ just like mine. Sigh. Anyone out there looking for a village idiot, I'm currently between jobs and can send you my application. 2 wounding hits, AP-4, 1 save, 3 damage goes through. The Las Cannon misses. Heavy bolters, 3 shots, 1 auto wound results in 4 hits at AP-1, and there are 2 fails. Tank Commander with the Vanquisher, 1 shot. Don't you fumble this. He hits, it wounds, AP-5, it just drills through the armour, Fury style, 8 wounds and 1 mortal on top. It doesn't explode, just grinds to a halt, belching flame from the impact hole and from the open turrets. Las Cannon, 1 shot, misses. Heavy bolters, 1 wounding hit, AP-1, but they save.
We'll kill anything that moves.
A command point each. Iron Hands tells his lads to take aim. The Tank Commander orders the Basilisk to pound them to dust for double the models for blast. Lord Solar orders the Tank Commander to do the same, and the Catachan take aim, and he tells himself to move. No psychic, on to moving. I like how the medic in the command squad has paler skin compared to the others, from hitting the books and dwelling in the classroom while the others train in the blazing sun. It probably also makes him more visible. No need for medic markings that might get him shot. Hey, nerd, I'm hit. Get your albino looking ass over here. Lord Solar retreats a bit to get within order range of all the artillery. The tank commander rumbles forward onto the objective as the infantry move into the building, trading out vulnerable troops for a more resilient objective holder. The other tank hugs the building. Because the scout sentinels got vaporized, the Catachan jump onto the objective using the Barbican's key. They could just advance onto it, but they want to shoot, so they're okay using the relic to get there. Basilisk on the Bullgrin, which now count as a unit of 10 because of Pound Them to Dust. If I had just one more Bullgrin, they would have been in real trouble because that would have took them up to the next bracket. -1 to hit for indirect, 3 auto wounds, saved. The mortars miss. The Catachan are just out of rapid fire range and open up on the Krieg squad on the other side of the building, who have their boots on the footprint for some cover. Lord Solar is giving them the reroll, 3 wounding hits, 2 go through, the Medipack soaks up 1. The others open up, and apparently from the online groups, the Catachan players tend to moan about having to take flamers, just as the Krieg players moan about having to take a Vox or a Plasma. I guess every faction has their niggle. Anywho, 2 auto wounds, 3 normal hits for a total of 5, 4 go through. Iron Hand Strachan is out of range. The command squad fire on the same Krieg squad, the Ripper gun from the Ogren. 5 shots, 3 hits, 2 wounds, 4 up to save, 1 save, 1 fail. Down goes another guardsman. The bracketed Lehman Russ. Multi-melters are out of range, las cannon, auto wound, a 1 for damage, command point reroll for a 6, much better. The blessed tank takes 4 damage, Lord Solar reroll for refunding CP fouls, but actually the multi-melters are in range, we were just looking at the wrong line. So here we go, 4 shots, 1 auto wound, AP -4, the invuln fails, 4 damage. The main cannon, D6 plus 3, 5 shots, 1 auto wound, 1 normal wound, and my opponent asks my tank's toughness, doing the same thing that I did earlier. 1 wounding hit, armor saves it. The tank commander, multi-melters into the squad in the center ruin, 1 auto wound, the medic absorbs it. Las cannon into my tank, an auto wound, 6 wounds. Invuln fails, and fortunately it doesn't explode because it had a lot of important and useful stuff all around it. Phew. A command point though for Vengeful Salute. 5 ups to hit, supercharge because why the hell not? What's going to happen? He's going to go into negative wounds. Okay, but what's the target? The tank commander or the damaged tank? Because apparently, as the tank was being destroyed amidst fire and smoke and shrapnel, there was a sudden and intense discussion inside as to where to place that final blast. Not to take that moment to bail out and survive, but rather to figure out who to take down with them. It might be overkill, but let's go for the damaged tank. 4 shots, 2 auto wounds. So much for the overkill. The target tank has 6 wounds left, but these shots do 3 each. Let me just run some math through in my head, but this could be very, very close. 6 is to save. Both fail. Command point reroll. Fails again. It doesn't explode, but they too give it a vengeful salute. Ye gads, a withering crossfire from destroyed tanks. The guys that killed them are already dead, so they target the Bullgrin. 6 shots, 2 auto wounds, 1 normal that fails to wound, 1 save, 3 damage, killing 1 and wounding another from the explosion. The Catachan, hotshot lasguns, overcharged las cells, 3 normal wounds, 1 goes through and a mortal on the armoured sentinels. Morale, nothing runs, everyone stays strong and resolute.
Weapons free! Burn them to the ground!
I gain a command point and I put a blessing on the remaining Lehman Russ, and then on to orders. I have a plan. So, the Commissar puts shock and awe on the Sentinels for OBSEC, because I'm going to have the tank focus its fire on the people in the building and not on the Catachan. Maybe have the Krieg squad drop a few shots into the Catachan to soften them up, but the plan is to move the Sentinels in and have them shoot and then charge. Hopefully the Catachan will be depleted enough, or maybe even demolished, so that they can steal that objective. Psychic, Night Shroud, fails. Psychic Barrier, fails. Divination, fails. Wow, that was useful. The Bullgrin advance and get into the building, gaining cover and staying on the objective, freeing up the tank to move off if I needed to. The remaining Lehman Russ rumbles down the streets, the armoured sentinels move on the Catachan, getting really close and hopefully into successful charge range. The Commissar advances to provide moral support in the coming scrap. Oh, and Battlefield Surgery for a command point, restoring 3 guardsmen to my Krieg unit over by the Lehman Russ, and newly reinforced with bandaged colleagues, they move forward. The Engine Seer jogs after the Lehman Russ to provide mechanical first aid should it get hit. The Primaris Psyker follows in as well. The Catachan Tank Commander sees the armoured sentinels warming up their plasma at him and pops smoke, reducing the barrage to just 3 hits. 2 go through, command point reroll, and it's recovered by Lord Solar, but the reroll fails. The Sniper takes a pot shot at Lord Solar, fails to hit. The rest of the squad, 3 hits, no AP, 2 go through. The Melter, 3 wounding hits, 1 goes through. Plasma misses, Watch Commander gets a hit, and the save fails. The other squad, they go for the command squad. Sniper fails to get the commander and doesn't wound the bodyguard. The Plasma misses, the Multi-Melter misses, the las guns, 2 wounding hits, the save fails, 2 wounds on the Ogrin. The Blessed Tank goes after the command squad. Plasma, 5 wounding hits, AP -4, AP -3 for the cover. The Ogrin has a huge knife but no shield, so there's no save, but the medic offers his 5 up to ignore wound loss. 5 wounds are erased, the Ogrin goes down, the veterans go down, the commander's invuln soaks up the last couple of wounds and remains unscathed. The tank commander with the Vanquisher, smoke is still active because it's the same phase, misses. Okay, command point reroll. Success! 7 wounds and a mortal on top, putting him on 1 wound. Oh, so close. And suddenly, I turn into Eddie Vitalski, Buzzsaw from The Running Man.
I love the saw. The saw's part of me. And I'm gonna make it part of you.
Yep, so intent am I on getting in there with my chainsaws, I forgot about my las cannon and the heavy bolters on both of my tanks. Anywho, over-enthusiastic and revving my chainsaws, the sentinels make the charge and surround the Catachan. Excuse me, Jungle Boys, I believe you'll find that this objective is ours. 5 hits, AP-2, 6 is to save, 4 go through, killing 4 of the Catachan. The Krieg squad that did the surgery. They snap on bayonets and haul out shovels and go for the charge. 8 inches. And an 8! They just make it. But the Catachan spend a command point for vicious traps. My squad move on to the objective and make a wall to stop the enemy getting on it, but what about those traps? They roll a 6. 2d3 mortal wounds. This could wipe out the whole 6-man squad, but it's a 1 and a 4. Okay, the daylight charge over the minefield wasn't the best tactic, but 3 of them make it into melee. So the guys the medic brought back from the brink, newly healed, they limp forward, bandaged limbs at the ready, and then they get blown sky high. So it's shovels versus machetes. 1 hit, wounds, no AP, 1 kill. Watch commanders, chainsawed, 3 attacks, 1 hit, 1 kill. Because of the gaps caused by their traps, the Catachan can pile in, getting as many as possible onto the objective so they can fight back. The Catachan have brutal strength, so +1 strength, which means they are no longer half of the Sentinel's toughness, giving them a better chance to wound. Rerolls from Lord Solar, 3 hits, 1 wounding hit, the save fails. A Catachan jams a bayonet into the Sentinel Ewok style. The Sergeant, 2 hits, a wound, fails. The Sergeant cuts a few more cables and breaks some more hydraulics. The Catachan, who blew up most of my squad with their traps, 5 attacks with rerolls, 4 hits, 1 wounding hit, saved. Morale. The Krieg pass, the Catachan get a 6. Command point reroll, another 6. 2 Catachan and 2 Catachan flee, making us equal on taking the objective. So I hold 2, the Catachan hold 1. Next turn, the Commissar can try and sneak in and maybe raise a banner here. Oh, and the Catachan commander also legs it.
Knives out, boys.
Orders. Gunners kill on sight and take aim for the shooters. Fix bayonets for those in hand-to-hand. The Basilisk backs up a little. The tank commander moves forward and gets my Lehman Russ in its sights. A squad jump out of the building and onto the objective, basically recreating that scene from Fury where the Shermans are advancing across the field with the infantry falling in behind. Iron Hand Strachan drops some cartridges into his shotgun and moves in for the charge. Lord Solar gallops around the back so he can go into the middle of the Sentinel line and make sure he can drop all of his attacks into as many as possible. Sol's righteous gaze on the Commissar, who ignored his post-it and is now standing out in the open again like a complete gimp. 2 hits, both wound, AP-3. With the invuln he goes down to 1 wound. Strachan uses his boomstick, and the assault shotgun roars and does 4 hits, 3 of them wound. They all fail the save, and the Commissar is shredded. Next time I guess he'll need a larger post-it note. Mortars on the command squad, 6 shots, and damn, 5 of them are auto wounds. Nook Degog is wondering, guys, why is you all whistling? Wait a minute, I think it's coming from the sky. 4 up to save, 2 go through, 5 up for the medic to ignore wound loss, saves 1. The armour saves more, Nook loses a wound. Come on, big fella, stay with us. Tank commander on my Lehman Russ. I spend 2 command points for ablative armour, multi-melters, 1 hit, -4 AP. the On-the-Sire's Blessing absorbs it. The las cannon misses. Battle cannon, 2 auto wounds, AP -2, 1 save, 1 goes through, the 3 damage goes down to 2. Basilisk on the command squad, 8 attacks, 3 auto wounds, -3 AP, all go through. 6 damage, the medic stops nothing, and that's just enough to take down poor Lord Begog. Lord Solar makes the charge, as does Ironhand Strachan. Strachan's 6 attacks, 2 ups to hit, they all hit, 3 go through, 6 wounds, they destroy a sentinel, and it fails to explode. Sentinels fight back and miss, which makes sense because there's people on foot down there somewhere hacking away, they just can't see them. Like an Ed 209 taking on some stairs. Lord Solar wipes out another sentinel, and we're 30 minutes from a hard deadline to end, so I think we're good to call it here. I still have Catachan to Barbican in and the Baldgrim. Nulk gets battlefield surgery next turn for sure, and I still have a squad to take the place of the tank commander so he can dozer blade his way in. So I think the Krieg had a good shot at taking this one, but you know, dice rolls being dice rolls, who knows. A really fun match. The vengeful salute tank duel, the vicious traps blowing up troops fresh from the medic's attention, the Catachan chopping up armoured sentinel ankles. Oodles of fun. I should have activated ablative armour on that first tank, I just forgot about it. I'll also have to remember to pop smoke, because that denied a lot of otherwise successful hits. Maybe get the command squad moving in sooner and leave an infantry squad on the objective. But other than that, despite their feeble performance this time, the Psychers have been very useful in my other games, so I'll keep them. Hopefully this won't be the last game of 9th, because 10th has done away with the psychic phase and the option to pick and choose powers. One flub I did make was getting an ability the wrong way round. The reroll one to hit. I was doing that with the Commissar when it should have been the Death Korps Marshal. Next time, I'll just give the Death Korps Marshal the Warlord trait to order Sentinels, and either keep the Commissar with the squads to offset attrition, or just trade them out for another Death Korps Marshal to try and stop any plasma detonating on ones. Okay, the sniper's run of taking MVP comes to an end, and we go with the other end of the spectrum. Instead of an individual with a rifle, it's a growling mountain of metal bristling with weapons. Yes, the Lehman Russ battle tank. The duel was awesome, popping smoke, vengeful salutes, raking each other with fire. I have another game next week if it's the same factions, the Krieg and Catachan pouring reinforcements to try and exterminate the traitors they have been tricked into thinking their opponents actually are. It'll be Machetes versus Shovels 2, the final reckoning.